All right. So welcome to today's webinar on the Untold Stories of Investments, Diani edition. We want to learn if Diani is really a paradise of investments. Before I start off, let me start with a question. How many of you here have ever looked at a beautiful coastal property, watched the palm trees move the wind, and thought, this is it? Yeah? You can just show by raising the hand. Yeah. So, of course, Diani is a place you can have a passive income. Thank you so much for the show of hands. And let me ask the second question. How many investors are told what happens after the Instagram photos, or you've been sold the property? Have you been told what happens after that, the background story? Yes or no? I want the session to be a bit more interactive so that we can also pick up your thoughts. So there's nobody who's been ever been told about what happens after investments. Not always. Thank you so much, Anne. So without much ado, we want to unveil what investors' paradise looks like. Yeah. So let's carry on. So behind every investor's paradise, there's a spreadsheet, and behind every beachfront, there is a return on investment. There's a tax structure. Behind every fully booked holiday home, there is regulations, maintenance policies, and risks that are involved. And today we are going to talk about a part where nobody talks about, where nobody markets this particular part. Welcome to the Untold story about Investors Paradise in Diani. My name is Viata. I'm the founder I'm the founder of Wirbelwind Marketing Limited and also Vision Right at Home. So this is the face behind the two companies. Welcome. So Diani is not just a destination, it is an ecosystem that has rules. And of course, where there are rules, there are regulations. So in the 2026, those rules are shifting from the 2% tourism levy, which has become very, very prominent. The e-teams compliance, this is a jargon word I'm using today because most of the time when you do an investment, all your expenditure must be accompanied by either VAT or e-teams. Without that, when you're doing your returns, it will not be recognized as returns to the KRA portal. So things are getting tighter. There is a structural tax exposure most investors have not priced into their models, especially when they are thinking about investing. This is not a theory, this is a margin, and a margin that really needs to be looked at. When it comes to the battle lead, we get most of the inquiries. People ask, should I invest in long term? Should I invest in short terms? But now the point here is volatility. When you talk about volatility, how stable is your expected or projected returns? So those are some of the things that we are going to talk about. When you look at the short-term rentals, they promise higher returns. When you look at the long-term rentals, that we call stability. Come rain or sunshine, you always have your investment. But now the real question is, which one makes more? That is what I think you're asking yourself. But to be honest, that should not be the question that is in your mind. The real question is, which one survives volatility? Which one aligns with your capital structure? Which matches your risk appetite? Of course, for every investment, there must be risk. And then there is what we call the salt tax. Today, we are going to learn about different types of salt, but each will be elaborated in details by my colleagues. We are not talking about the government tax when we talk about the salt tax. We are talking about the reality tax. The ocean is beautiful, but salt corrodes. Metal rusts, paint peel, air conditioning system work twice as hard. Coastal maintenance is not 10% higher. It has multiplied higher and higher, actually to, I think, 200% if you do your calculation well. So if you don't have this model for 1 year, then you'll keep on paying for everything for the next 3 years. So ask yourself, where do you want to stand when it comes to investment? Let's talk about ownership. We talk about land, it's permanent. And there is ownership of 100% ownership, and then there is the 99-year leasehold structure. That one will be elaborated more by my colleagues. So the question is no longer, can I buy? The question is, how do I structure ownership intelligently? This is not a fear conversation. We are not trying to inculcate fear in you, but it is a clarity conversation because paradise is real. Opportunities in Diani, they're very real. The returns are very, very real, but only the strategy is real. Those who have the right strategy, you're going to overcome all these fears. Today is about shifting from the emotional investing to structural investing. The emotional investing, from our experience, most of the clients that come to our office, they tell us, I ask them, why do you want to invest? Because I love the place, because of the weather, because I have fallen in love with Diani. But now there are some real and hard questions that we should ask ourselves. We should move from chasing return on investment to engineering return on investment, from buying property to building investment systems, which we're going to talk about today. And if we do the right thing, Diani is not just a paradise, it becomes a protected performing asset. So without much ado, let's unpack all the steps that we've talked about, and I welcome Andrew to take it over from here. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Viata. It's indeed an honor to be here today. And my name is Andrew. I'm marketing executive with the Wirbelwind Marketing Diani. And today we are here to talk about the investor's paradise that is Diani. So we ask ourselves, is it actually a mirage, or what is it? So we're here to cut through the noise and answer one critical question about East Africa. When you talk about the Diani mirage, or the Diani investor's paradise, are we witnessing a speculative mirage, or are we seeing genuine investor's paradise? So when we are, sorry about my machine is having a problem. Just a moment. So yeah, sorry for the hitch. When we are talking about Diani, it's actually a beautiful place. For those who have been able to have the chance to be in Diani, you'll agree with all of us that it's actually a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to bring your family and loved ones to enjoy all the beauty that Diani has to offer. So over the next 20 minutes, we are going to move beyond the brochure, and we are going to provide a clear database, data-backed analysis unit. This isn't a sales pitch. It's an investor's briefing. Here's exactly what we cover. First, we'll dissect the real market drivers. We'll look at what capital is flowing into Diani. It's not just about tourism anymore. We'll examine the three distinct demand engines fueling the market, that realistic numbers behind rental yields and capital appreciation. We'll answer what's actually driving investors' demand. Second, and most importantly, we'll expose the hidden risks. Every fast-growing destination has pressure points, and we'll pull back the curtain on the critical factors most promoters ignore. The reality of infrastructure stress and what it means for your margins. The land and general legal complexities that are unique to Kenya's coast that have derailed investments. The often overlooked environmental risks that threaten long-term value, and the silent killer of resort markets. The oversupply of short-term rentals, for example, will be delved into in detail. And then third, we'll position Diani within the broader East African market. And we'll ask ourselves several questions, and key among them will be, where does Diani sit compared to Mombasa and Malindi or Zanzibar? Is it in a growth phase, opportunity, or a saturated market? We'll give you the regional context to understand its true potential. Finally, we'll arm you with strategic guidance, and this isn't about vague advice. We'll give you the 5 key principles that smart investors are using to navigate these markets successfully right now. And because we know a skeptical audience is a smart audience, we will address the tough questions, the ones that test credibility. Questions like, are you investing, or are you selling property, or providing analysis? What evidence is there that demand will continue? And what risks are you not talking about? So the new economic and operational context in Diani is that before we dive into those frameworks, we need to establish the ground reality of operating here in Diani. First, we have to talk about economic seasonality. And in Diani, we know that income is not linear. It comes in waves. We will discuss how local businesses survive the low seasons, the specific tactics and cash flow strategies they use to stay afloat, because understanding survival is the first step towards understanding sustainable profit. We will also examine how market trends are heavily influenced by currency exchange rate fluctuations. For an investor dealing in foreign currency, these shifts can be the difference between a solid return and a windfall. And we will show you how to read those signals. So we look at wealth creation and consumer shifts. When we look at this angle, we aren't just talking about buying a villa. We are talking about the difference between isolated purchases and building scalable wealth systems. We will introduce you to the concept of ownership investment architecture, a framework that allows your assets to work together, and explain why this structure is particularly resilient in the current economic climate. This ties directly into a massive shift in consumer behavior. The days of emotional buying are fading, and as they fade, we are seeing a definitive move towards strategic buying. Now, we will explore what is driving this trend and how it changes the way you should position your property or service. That is when now we delve into operational strategy. Finally, we will look under the hood of the hospitality machine. We will outline our scalability plans for the future. But more importantly, we will give you a brief but candid analysis of the labor turnover issues currently affecting the Diani region. People are your greatest asset, and knowing how to navigate the local talent landscape is critical to protecting your investment. By the end of this session, you won't just know if you should invest in Diani, you will know how to approach it, what pitfalls to avoid, and where the real sustainable opportunity lies. Diani is at a pivotal stage, and the opportunity is real, but it is no longer effortless. Let's uncover what it really takes to really succeed in Diani. So Diani, as we all know, is in Ukunda, Kwale County, and it's a coastal luxury market whose growth is due to different reasons, and key amongst them is one, the rise in international and diaspora buyers, an increase in interest in short-term rental properties, and a corporate demand for executive retreats and off-site venues. So investment framing will say that Diani offers a lifestyle appeal with a capital growth potential unlike city-based real estate. So it is a premium coastal corridor with emerging infrastructure and high yield potential. So when you talk about infrastructure scaling, we are looking at a new compressed time schedule whereby the property value has increased due to a few strategized infrastructure projects by the government. And the first amongst them is the Dongokundu bypass, which acted as a major game changer in accessibility to the Diani market. So we see that in line with that, the government also increased other amenities, like we look at the terminal, the railway terminal, and the improvement of services at the international airport that connects to Diani. And also the Diani airstrip have also been improved. And this has led to a bigger shift in how services in Diani are available, traveling, availability of amenities, bank services, even an immigration office near Diani at Ukunda have all played a major role in transforming Diani into not just a local or rural market, but giving it a near city approach, which has shortened the travel time to these services. Like, for example, previously one had to go to Mombasa in order to have some of these major government services, but now they've been brought nearby here. Then we go to property ownership. In property ownership, we are looking at the government legislations, and the 2024 Land Amendment Bill has really changed how investors occupy and develop their businesses. So the Land Amendment Bill 2024 really gave rise to the individual ownership, and this has been segregated into two sections. That is the leasehold ownership and the long-term ownership through this, we call them the international investors, whereby they are able to own land through leasehold, while locals are able to own land through freehold long-term lease. So the foreign ownership, that is for the foreign investors, goes up to 99 years, which is secure, it is transferable, and it is renewable. The freehold land ownership is majorly for the residents, and this applies to Kenyans who have registered by birth and even through registration. So it is perpetual and cannot cover foreigners. So those are the two key areas that the Land Amendment Bill 2024 seeks to cover. Then we go to the risk mitigation, whereby we look at the political and legislative positioning that holds the leasehold framework. It plays a major role. And then the seasonal rental risk, whereby we have to look at it in a deeper sense. Then there is the currency risk, whereby the fluctuation in currency exchange rates has been a major point of noting, and the insurance, tsunami, reconstruction, and destruction by natural calamities has also been a point worth noting, because investors have to know the risks they are meant to encounter and how well prepared they should be in terms of such. So again, we have the operational risks that are being mitigated by companies like Wirbelwind Marketing Limited, Diani. We are players who have come in strongly, and we mitigate the risks of operational deficit gap. But looking at it previously, the investors, most of the investors at the Kenyan coast were handling their property, managing their properties from abroad. But now with such players like Wirbelwind Marketing Limited, we come in a strong way in trying to mitigate this risk by giving professional advice, by giving professional service in managing of property, and also in explaining and guidance through the taxation gap that most investors have not been well aware of. So we bring this to light, and in essence, it brings about the element of strategic positioning, whereby we advise our clients, our customers who are the investors in the importance of early mover advantage, whereby the earlier you set in, the earlier you move into the Diani market, it plays a major advantage in how you position yourself, and it shortens the time it takes for you to break even in the corporate Diani culture. So we look at the capital growth plus yield. The Diani assets provide a unique lifestyle appeal and a financial performance platform that enables you as an investor to be at an advantage in the market. So you don't start from a beginner's point of view, but actually you are given a leverage to start when you are steps ahead. So when we look at the professional management, it also gives the unique leverage of optimizing on the occupancy and maintenance, reducing the investor exposure to major risks that come in with the initial capital outlay in setting up their businesses in Diani. We will also look at the labor and management turnover, whereby there is a very hidden risk when you invest in Diani, and key among them is this labor and management turnover issue. You'll find that there are certain services that require specialty, and they are very, very, very limited when it comes to the Diani marketplace. A very major example can be like in the case we have less plumbers, we have less electricians. So if you're not very well acquainted with the Diani market, you may find that these kind of professionals are very hard to come by, and it might take you even up to days or weeks to fix a very small issue in your premises when you're in Diani and you are not well versed with how the market changes or trends. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we are going to look. I think, Viata, when I get back to you, we are going to proceed, and that is just the overlay that I wanted to provide, that we are going to talk about in this webinar, and let's all keep glued, and we'll learn a lot more.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for that good insight. At least we've laid good basis on what is happening in Diani. By now, you should ask yourself, what kind of an investor are you? Are you a speculator, whereby you're just excited by the tourism boom making profit or doubling your prices, or is it just about having short-term yields? So we have the speculative investors. We also have the lifestyle investors, because most of the people also we are getting from the office is that after retirement, they're looking for somewhere where they can settle permanently, especially in the first world countries, if you allow me to call them like so. So if you're here for retirement, what are the key things that you should consider while doing your investment? What is your major focus? Is it about comfort? Is it about aesthetic? Is it about proximity to the beach? Those are some of the things that you should look at. Then we also have the institutional thinkers. Institutional thinkers, they're the people who think about the not buying about the property. It is about building a system. So what is the capital structure? Those are some of the things that they ask. They ask about tax exposure, my 5 years operational model, management compliance, reinvesting strategy. So that is what Andrew is talking about in a nutshell. As we continue with our webinar, please allow me to ask you some few questions. Out of the three, are you a strategic investor? Are you a lifestyle investor, or are you a speculator? So as we continue with the webinar, make sure you weigh yourself and know where you fall under. Also to mention is that we are having most of the people wanting to join in. I'll ask my colleague McKenna to allow them in, and the availability is limited to only 50 spots. So if you don't get to join in, please, we will record the whole thing and also send it online, and you can have a recording of the same. So without much ado, we need to talk about the salt tax. I'm sure you're eager to know what is salt tax. And the salt tax majorly really affects most of your investment in Diani. So we'll talk about the salt tax and the human capital, and I give it to Bakari Juma.
Good afternoon. My name is Bakari. So today I will talk about the untold story of maintenance and human capital. So in this untold story of maintenance and human capital, first we see that many investors, they just calculate the purchase price, but some, they calculate the maintenance costs. What I can say, first I talk about the salt corrosion. In Diani, salt is a major concern, which by the ocean, which the salt particles carried by wind and high humidity dramatically speed up rust. So salt is the major concern in Diani. First, what I can say, I had an experience before. I was a manager at Visha Metat Homes. Before the guest check-in, I was supposed to go and check everything if it's working. First, I tap the water tap. The water tap, when you open it, you see there is water inside. The AC is working. The fan, also the fan is working. Everything in the kitchen and the amenities are working. But after 2 to 3 days, the guests check in. When you go back again, you see that the AC make noise. The fan is not working. The amenities are rusting. And the wall painting, it's not so good. So salt affecting Diani. The second point that I can talk about is the staff. As an investor, you need to teach staff so that they can communicate well with the guests. Don't just pick any person who has no skills. It's good you pick a person who has skill and can communicate good to the customers. Do you know that one untrained staff can cost you a lot? Why? This is because the guest can give you bad reviews. Second, you'll get low occupancies. Third, the guest will demand their refund, and that is not good. Then the third one, I can talk about the structure. Structure is like what the guest wants. Who are your guests? So you need to know who are your guests and what the guests they want. In the structure, you need to paint a good color for the attraction, so that when the guests come, like couples, they see, wow, everything is perfect, it's good. You need to paint the chair. You need to look everything that is working and is good, so that the guests, when they see, they are willing to stay and they feel comfortable with it. Then there is a 7 McKinsey, which is a silent task, a McKinsey 7. First, I can say that you have system. In system, we need to hand over to the other staff. It's like a shift. You shift it to another staff so that you know what you're doing. Then we'll make a breakfast to our guests every day so that they feel happy and they know that they are taken care of. Then second one, we have structure. The structure is how the staff can communicate well to them as the guests. And also to make friendly to them. Thirdly, I can say the strategy. Strategy is that the staff, they need to know how the guests who are coming. Some guests are very tough. You can't handle them. Yeah, some guests, you can handle them. So you need to know how to talk with the guests well. Then what I can say another one is shared value. Shared value, as staff, you should have boundary with the guests. Then also, I can say about the staff again. The staff need to be trained. That's why we came up with an idea of training the housekeeper on every Saturday. We train the housekeeper so that they can come with their own decision in the compound, and they can think faster on what to do if things happening. Then skills. The staff should have the skills like spreading the beds, washing clothes, how to handle the guests to make the guests are happy. Then I can finish with the style. Style, we need to entertain the guests. The guests are supposed to be entertained so that they feel comfortable. They know that there's people looking for them. Then also we need to do farewell party for them. Like our long-term guests, we normally do for them farewell party so that they feel that Fisher Method is the home to be. Thank you very much for watching. Let me hand it over to Viata.
Thank you very much, Bakari. That was quite elaborate. Yeah, and I can see some questions that are coming in. My team is really working on answering each and every question that is being brought forward. I am glad again for joining. Thank you very much for taking your time to join the webinar. So in a nutshell, what Bakari is saying is that salt tax is not dramatic. It is just incremental because it shows up in corroded gate motors, huge hinges that are rusty, the AC that can fail the compressor, peeling of the interior paint, plumbing erosion. Oh my God, that has been very prominent, especially with our property. When we think that everything is working on well, then boom, something happens. Then the pool equipment that decay over the period of time. So these are some of the things that you look at, and you might have a very nice and perfect property. But if the human capital is not as good, then you risk your investment. So human capital, we are talking about the housekeepers. We are talking about the response rate of the plumbers, of the people who are coming to repair your place. We are talking about the guest communication. We are talking about pricing management, security, very important, and also the vendor's relationship. So if these people are not well taken care of in the process, you might lose your investment. You might think you have a perfect investment, but it's like the O-ring theory. Only one thing can make everything go down. That one we'll discuss in depth later. So what you're talking about is that salt tax really affects your investment in Diani. When you're making a good investment in Diani, make sure you are compliant and you have the integral part of making sure that you align with the government structure, one, and two, with also the salt tax, which we ignore. It's usually a portion that ignores. You are always worried about, oh my God, the KRA, they are here, they are coming. So that is not the major issue only. So as I've mentioned, let's go to the big elephant in the room, the KRA and the tax structure. We're talking about the tax trap. And I hand it over to McKenna to explain to us in depth about the tax trap. Welcome, McKenna.
Thank you, Viata, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is McKenna. I will be taking you through the tax trap, as we call it. So you've heard everything about how Diani is a perfect hub to invest in right now. You've heard how you should maintain your equipment, your amenities, so that they don't rust. But if you do not focus on the policies that the government is implementing, you are going to be a target, and everything that you have been doing will not add up to profits. And as an investor, you look at the big picture. So that's what I will be taking you through. And we're calling it the tax trap because the era of informal investing here in Mombasa, in the coastal region, is over. And if you're not prepared, you're really going to feel the pressure. So to really understand why this trap is effective, we have to start with the ground. We have to start with the most significant shift in property law that we have seen in quite a while. So for decades, freehold land in Diani was considered the ultimate security. So once you buy land, it's yours to own until you die and you pass it to your family. But that changed on November 4th, 2025. the Land Amendment Act was signed into law, and it changed a couple of things that redefines ownership here in Diani. So the first thing is, if you're a non-citizen, that means if you're not a Kenyan resident, if you're not a Kenyan citizen, or you own a company where you have majority of the shares and you're not a Kenyan citizen, your freehold title that was yours forever automatically becomes a 99-year leasehold. So this means that the government is now leasing the land to you for 99 years. And this affected a lot of things that, as we're going to see. So now there's this gap where most people in the title deed, it's written a freehold. So it means you have the land until you die. But then now from the county side, it shows that it's a leasehold. So whenever you're trying, whenever you have a physical document that it's not updated, you're not able to really transact with it. You can't buy, you can't get a loan against your property because technically the information is incorrect. So we have seen a lot of people being frustrated with this. So now the government has made it mandatory that everyone has to get that digital first before they can really do anything against their property that they have had on. So many things affect this, starting with the fact that if you used to only pay the rates to the government, you're now also paying for the ground rent. And the ground rent essentially is paid annually, and you're paying this to the national government. And essentially it's kind of like a rent, but you're paying it every year. So before you would only pay the county government, but now you have two people that you're paying. You pay the land rates to the county for services like garbage collection, street lighting, the road, local infrastructure. Everyone is paying this, but now you're also paying, the ground rent because of the rent, the 99-year lease, and now you have to pay double rent. And specifically on this side, the ground rent increases your expenses, if I may say, yeah. And this ground rent, the reason why it's something to keep in mind, it's because every 10 years it can increase. If the property value increases, now that we have Dongo Kundu, the price increases. So it's something that you need to pay attention to. And now whenever you're going to buy land, someone can show you a title deed that is written freehold, they're selling it to you, but they've not updated with the county government. So that's something that you need to be aware of, and keep in mind whenever you're transacting either your property or working with other people. But that's just essentially a structural shell. The real day-to-day pressures happens in the ledger, in your bookkeeping, specifically now that the government wants a percentage of your success. So you can no longer hide your income here. I'm sure most of you have heard of the monthly rental income tax, that is now a flat rate of 7.5% on your gross revenue. So this is gross, like I said, not net. You cannot deduct the repairs of the salt tax. Like my colleague mentioned earlier, this is a top line cost that is payable the 20th of every month. And there's also the tourism levy, that's 2%. And as of June 2026, it's going to be automated for platforms like Airbnb and Booking.com. So you wouldn't have to do it manually. However, if you do take direct bookings and you ignore this, KRA will find you. So just keep that in mind, yeah. And then there's also the fact that all of this is being tracked on the new electronic rental income tax system by KRA. So this is a digital platform that was launched last year in April 2025, and essentially enables you to streamline and manage and pay your MRI, your monthly rental income. Well, now you might think that you can manage all of these payments by staying small, by using affordable local contractors, by calling your friend to do the gardening. But that's what leads to the next point, which is the most expensive digital trap, and this is the ETIMS. So ETIMS, if you have no idea what this is, it's essentially a digital receipt, and this is what the government is now using, to move, to essentially check on what you're doing. I'm calling it like a CCTV. If the government does not see your ETIMS, it did not see that transaction. So even if you've hired a local contractor for $500,000 to come and renovate your pool or your homes, they give you a receipt, but they do not have the ETIMS, the digital receipt that is actually recognized by the government. You will be paying 30% of this money in extra tax because the government sees it as a transaction. They don't see the receipts. So this is a very critical area for you to really pay attention to whenever you are transacting here in Diani and across Kenya. Essentially, the government is really strict with this one, and you will find that most of the contractors that are around, they do not have the ETIMS. So it's going to take more diligence for you whenever you are looking for contractors to work with. It's going to take more diligence for you to research and work with contractors who have the e-teams. And at Wirbelwind specifically, we are curating a list of contractors around Diani with e-teams that we work with, because this is something that has affected us personally. Now, when you add up all of these things, you can see why so many investors are struggling. You can see why so many things come up that you really did not expect. You come thinking this is a perfect place to invest, but then all of these things come up and suddenly your expenses are way more than your income, and something that you thought was going to be a perfect investment is now a liability. And some of the mistakes that we have seen that really are affecting investors are the following. So think of it as your business is like you have a big tank of water, you're filling it, there's the rain, it's pouring, but then there are all of these leaks that are constantly taking the water out of the tank. So you never see as if your tank gets full to the brim, and it's very frustrating, yeah. So some of the things that we have seen that are very frustrating, we have seen owners, investors who come start a business, but then they try to go under the radar and they're trying to pay their employees via cash. From the business side, KRA is now cross-referencing their data. They are checking your KPLC, how much tokens, meters, how much electricity you're using. So you have a business, you have all of this income, but you have no employees because you're not paying them through the required channels. So you might think that you are escaping it, but they're going to find you, they're going to backdate you, and you're going to pay a very hefty fine. So we recommend that you pay everything on the platforms that the government allows, that the government provides for us. Another second thing that I would like to address is where we mix the money, the income that's coming in with your personal accounts. So you're running a business, you think it's just a small business, I've registered it, but you're taking all of the payments where you're also paying the same place where you're getting your rent, where you're getting your salary, in the same area where you are also paying, receiving money from your business. So if KRA sees 200,000 that came in from a friend, and then they also see money that comes in from the business, there's no difference. They're going to tax the entire amount. So it is recommended that you separate your business account and your personal account. Now, before we've had people who file nil, they're like, how will they know that that I made money? You were operating through cash only, so you file nil. But this is now the biggest audit trigger. If you file nil, your business, the algorithm is going to flag you. That's what the KRA is using now, that it's all digital. They're using AI to be able to flag all of these common traps that we think might get us away from actually paying the tax. And finally, I'd also like to address the fact that most people are just trusting their friends to buy them land. Like I'd said earlier, now that all the land registration is going through 100% digital confirmation, you might shake a hand on a title deed, but this deed is not on the digital platform as available to sell. If it was a leasehold, it was a freehold that's now leased to the government, how sure are you that this person is giving you the correct property? And to wrap it up, I'll just go back to the fact that we advise our clients, we advise our business partners to put their businesses not in their names, but in the name of the property in case something happens. If, for example, you have a holiday home and you registered it under your personal name, you're taking the payments directly to your M-Pesa, directly to your bank account. A guest comes, they fall down, they say the path was very slippery, they sue you for 50 million. All the money that's in your account, all the money you saved up for your children's college fund is now on the line because you are not protected. So protect yourself by getting everything under a company structure. So being a strategic investor, you don't ask necessarily how to hide, you ask how do you structure so that all of this, once the foundation is solid, your property is no longer struggling. You're able to work with what is in the air. So automate your 7.5 MRI and your 2% levy into a separate business account. Require e-teams from every single vendor and audit your title under the 2025 Act today. If this is solid, marketing your property is not just a struggle, it's a victory. And we show you how we take a property that's now followed all of this and we turn it into a full-on high yielding brand. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. We are going to take the questions and answer them at the end of the session. So we are not ignoring your questions. We just want to make sure we have all the time to give you the attention that you need. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. McKenna for a very good, elaborate discussion or information on tax trap. So now we know that tax trap is not high tax as we normally consider it. It is when your operational structure forces you into a less efficient tax position than your asset required. You don't lose because of the rate, you lose because of the misalignment. So what we are saying is that when you go to Mama Mboga and you buy vegetables, fruits, everything that you buy, all that, it should be accompanied by what we are terming as eatings. This is electronic invoice that is given to you. Otherwise, from the system of the KRA, the cost will be disregarded. So that means that in every transaction you make as an Airbnb owner, or if you're doing that kind of a business or investment, every expenditure must be accompanied by either VAT or eatings. That is very important for you to note. So far so good. What we can say is that at this point, we know that salt tax is moderated by specification. Human capital risk is moderated by systems, the way we're talking about the systems, the structures, the strategies, and all that, the McKinsey 7. Then tax exposure is moderated by the structure itself. When these three align, then we move from the emotional kind of ownership to engineered performance. And that is what we are aiming at. All said and done, we have to transit to now the strategic thinker. What does the strategic thinker tell us today about the untold stories of Diani as an investor? Welcome, Bakari. This is, we are talking now of, we have two different Bakaris, but now we are talking about Bakari Moody. Welcome, and let us know how we can become strategic thinkers, or we can position ourselves strategically as investors in Diani.
Okay, thank you, Viata, for this opportunity. So the untold story, the strategy. So at first, I'm Bakari from Wirbelwind Marketing. So at first, let me tell you about a story which I experienced. So Fishermen at Homes, this was our first investment. So what was on our mind as amateurs? We thought that profit is coming. Profit. After all we do, the profit is on the way. So the home was there. We painted it beautifully. It was nice, eye-catching. So we thought everyone will like it because everything is okay. There was no problem at all. So after the painting, the additionals of the amenities, we employed local staffs, as in housekeepers, gardeners, pool attendant. Then we started bringing the guests. So our review at first were good, but on the way, we started receiving the reviews there, untold story reviews. We found blah, blah, blah about our staffs. These staffs did not communicate well with the guests. They did not reach the guests' expectations. So we asked ourselves, what's going on? The profit thing on our mind was starting to decay, and we didn't want that. What we wanted is to reach the break-even point. So we sat down, we thought about it. What will we do about this? No, there must be a strategy, a way on which we'll bring back the mind that the profit will be coming soon. So after the meeting we talked about this, we found out that there are some strategies to do. Not just do what others do so that we can impress the guests. No, we need professionalism. What do I mean by professionalism? First, a professional person is not that who wears a suit. No, that's not all about professionalism. Now we went to find those who invested earlier before us, so to learn from them what was the problems before their investment gave them the profit. Then we found out that you have to pamper this guest, do whatever this guest wants, and train those staffs who are just from the local staff so that you get more things to know about those staffs. So we trained our staffs. We managed to add some things that guests may feel like they're at home. Like on our review, the first review that made us think that our profit mindset is going to decay. It was about pool privacy. So we made sure there was high pool privacy and also a private access to the beach. So that made us meet the guest expectation. Now, let's go to these things that we will use to conquer in investment. First, you should have a clear vision. Understand our target market. For example, as a house management, you should know, who am I targeting? Is it international guests? the budget travelers, or the digital nomads. You should know all this so that you can know what to do for them and what to plan for them. Another thing, know your business plans. Before investing, define a property. Is it a villa? Is it an apartment? Is it a boutique hotel or a commercial space? Third, separate your personal and business money. This will help you to ensure accurate profit calculation and easier to tax. Fourth, track all income and expenses. Then reinvest wisely on your profit. For example, in housekeeping, you should now, maybe the guest said, we don't have a balcony or we don't have a chair on the balcony so that you can view our nice ground. So the profit you got, just go buy a chair, put it on the balcony so that the guests feel like what I needed, it is kept there for me. And he is feeling like he is at home. Another thing, attend to trainings. What I need you to know is that a teacher once had a teacher. So for you to invest, you have to go somewhere where there's these trainings or find someone who has invested earlier so that you can know what he did, what he went through. Don't feel like you'll be low if you ask him or her about this thing. So you have to train. Another thing is that, lastly, problem-solving mindset. One thing you should know, every investor faces slow season, losses, and competition also. So as an investor, you should know that there is these things you will face on your way forward in investment. And these are those low season, losses, competition. So amateurs focus on quick profits. Professional investors focus on system, standard, and sustainability. And this is why in Wirbelwind marketing, we focus on not just marketing. We focus in strategy market pointing. Thank you, Beata.
Thank you very much, Bakari Modi, for the elaborate communication or information that you've given us today about the strategist approach. So strategists assume that the ocean will corrode. They also assume that stuff will change, the policy will evolve, budgets will compress, which is a good thing. And there's so many things that are coming up as far as being a strategist is concerned. So what we should do is moderate the risks. How do we do that? Through specifications. Reserves, you say you don't put all your money in one basket. If you have your account that is for the company, let it be the company's account. Then separate your income from your company's account and your personal account. That is very vital and very informative to us. The system, the structure, the stress testing and all that. That means that a strategist is not optimistic. A strategist is realistic. So thank you so much for the so many questions that you've been receiving. And I'm almost opening the floor so that we can have some more questions coming in. Our team is really working hard to answer all your questions, and we're recording this webinar for your future references, and also you can refer it to your friends and family. So now let's go to the Investors Paradise closing remarks, whereby we want to see what we have learned in the recap of everything. So I will leave you with this, that Paradise, it's very easy to sell. I can tell you for sure, even me, I can sell Diani at the comfort of my seat because I know a few things that I can put in. The photos are effortless, especially for Airbnb. You see very nice photos and you're like, boom, this is it. I'm going to book in this home, just the photos. And then the reality versus what was advertised, oh my God, it's different. The sunset is reliable, especially at Congo River. We do the sunset boat rides. The palm trees, they never argue. They're just blowing very nice, beautiful wind to us and welcoming us to Diani. But what would an investor do? They see an opportunity. They see extraordinary in Diani. They see that growth is visible. But markets do not reward emotions. Whenever you're making an investment, I think you push your emotions a bit. Yeah. So the reward structure over the last hour, we've unpacked what most brochures don't mention. The salt tax, the human capital fragility, the tax exposure, the yield volatility, the leasehold realities. I can see one of the participants is saying, McKenna, give us good news, Bana. So yeah, we are giving you the realities, what is there. So this is not to create fear, but to create clarity, because here is the truth. Paradise is not passive. Paradise is operational. And the difference between a beautiful sunset and a performing asset is not location. We get most of the inquiries you get here is like, where is it located? You might even be located in the third group, but there is more into that. It is about leadership. The speculator chases momentum, the lifestyle investor chases experience, and the strategists, as we heard from Modi, they build durability. I think we are all here to build durability. And in a world where policy shifts, like now we are talking about a world of items. If you're putting your expenditure online, like the KRA people can see it. Now that one is considered an expenditure. If I have a receipt that is not being put in the, you only have a receipt that is not reflected in the expenditure, that means that the KRA might not consider it as an expenditure. It is disregarded. That is the word that they use. And then there is the lifestyle investor chases experience and the strategies that build durability. So where the regulation they tighten, then we must compress the margin. The real question is not, is Diani a good place for investment? The real question should be, are you building a structure strong enough to let Diani perform? Because when you engineer your capital properly, when you model maintenance honestly, when you build systems around people, and when you design ownership intelligently, paradise stops being a gamble. It becomes protected, performing asset, and this is not about buying a property. It is about building investment system, a coastal ecosystem. The way we started, we said that like Diani is an ecosystem, and you take one thing from today. When you're going to your places of work or to your normal, we say factory setting, please take this one. Don't chase on return on investment, engineer it. Thank you for being part of this Untold Stories of Investment in Paradise in Diani. And I look forward to seeing you how to build not just a beautiful house, but to become strategic on it. So we open the floor to welcome the questions. And before we do that, perhaps I want to invite one of our guests who joined us. And we want just to hear what are the challenges that yes, of course, Andrew, it doesn't seem to be simple. Yes, I can see that. But I want to hear just one or two challenges that Anne has been experiencing in the quest of investing here in Diani. As I need some people to raise up their hands and ask. Over to you, Anne.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank Beata, Andrew, McKenna, and the two Bakaris. I was just passing by and I had this privilege to come and listen to what these guys are doing. They are doing a great job. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to everyone who is in this forum. And I'm Anne, just a beginner in investment in Diani, and I'm just like learning. So far, I'm like traumatized by McKenna's information, but I hope I'm not the only one. But I got like some ideas, or I had to learn a lot today, and maybe I will also be one of the people who will be wiser today after getting all these questions asked, like answered. So I thank you for you guys who have also joined. As I said, I'm just new in Diani and a new investor. Thank you.
What are the challenges that you experienced during your quest in investments?
Well, I got some hardships in regards of when you're not on the ground, like you get the contractors and to pay money, and when you're not around, it can happen. It happens to me that the things which have been done when I was not around is not what I was expecting. So that was really challenging. I have to digest that. And I think maybe when you invest here, you need someone like a very, very good person who is more aware of what is like in building, or even if it's like excavator who has the channel on the ground, like someone you can trust. And yeah, that is the challenge I got. Yeah.
And is still dealing with the trauma about investing in Diani, but I hope after this, you're going to have an insight of what happens, especially in investment. And does not leave just a minute.
Just a moment. And the other thing, when you buy land, even with a through lawyer, you should really go through to know whether the arrears, the KRA arrears are really paid, because that is the other challenge I got, that I had to pay the arrears since like 2013, and that was not really 2 cents. So yeah.
Well, I hope everything gets revived, but thank you for the insight. So investment in Diani is not something that is very simple. It's something that needs a lot of strategy. It also needs a lot of building up. It also needs like you talk to people. So a teacher teaches a teacher. So make sure you do that. Is Anne willing to share her contact? Somebody is asking about that. Are you willing to share your contact? Yeah. So Anne does not stay in Kenya. Actually, she stays in Germany, but she's here because of her project. So this is a good opportunity for her to learn what normally happens in Kenya, because she's been in Germany longer, so she's not so very conversant with the systems in Kenya at the moment. So we're going to take in a bit of the questions, and I will ask Andrew to take us through this session for question and answers. Please raise your hand if you have any question. Over to you, Andrew.
Well, there have been a few questions on the chat, and we have tried to answer most of them. So it is my prayer that should anybody else have Zach?
Hi, yes, I have a question actually. I'm a foreign investor, and I wanted to ask, have you seen an uptake of current owners selling due to these new regulations, the new tax reforms, and so on and so forth? Have you seen any uptake of people selling their properties?
Well, quite frankly, we deal with a lot here in Diani, and we are connected with even the community on the ground. So I would say, as per now, we haven't heard of any that is willing to offset the property due to any reason whatsoever, unless there are those that we've not heard of. But quite frankly, not yet.
I have another question as well. Sorry. Well, I actually have two. One's a question, one's a statement. I think for me as a foreign investor, if I see these initiatives, like the tax, the online, the increase, that actually gives me more confidence to invest. To be frank, you know, if I have to invest 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 million, I'm used to these systems. I want to see these systems, and these systems actually, for me personally, instill confidence. It shows the government is now really looking at this in a correct light. I just wanted to add that. But my other question really is, what is an entry figure amount that you'd say as an average for this? I know there's many variables from the location, the beach, the second, third, fourth row, 5, 20, but I understand. But what would you say is an average entry amount?
Wow. That's a very, I would say that's a very difficult question, because when you move around, you're bound to find property in different areas of Diani. There is Mfindeni. So it depends with, first of all, it depends with the site and the location. But I would like to give a very, I would say, a rough estimate that won't be so far off the mark. I would say between 20 to 35 million per acre. That's when you're looking at acreage. That is for the beachfront. And then for the second row, you know, there is a way the properties have been, or the locations have been segregated. So in the second row of the coastal land, we are looking at a figure of around between 4 million to 10 million per acre. Then for the smaller plots, like let's say we're talking about 50 by 100, we should be looking at under 1 million for undeveloped parcels.
And just to continue that, roughly, what would you say? Would you say for that acreage, the same price again would be invested for development?
Now, development largely depends on your projections, what you want to put up, the returns. You'll have to put it into consideration. What you want: is it a home? Is it a rental space? Yeah, these are some of the factors that determine how much you're going to pump in, because some of them want a beach plot for private use. There are others who want to get into the business of letting and renting. So it's really not very clear, but it depends on what you have in mind.
Thank you very much for answering those. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I can see Zach, Andrew, and Isaac.
Please unmute and ask your
Unmute
question.
and ask your question, Michael.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Viat and team, for the amazing presentation. I look forward to learning more. Yeah, and I'd like to also thank my friend Judy. She's currently in California. I was actually surprised that she's still awake. It's 4 a.m. right there, but I'm glad she managed to join the meeting. She's actually planning to purchase a property in Diani, somewhere near Galu. So if she has a moment, I'm sure she'll ask more about that. My name is Michelle. I live in Nairobi, but I have invested in Kampala. We have a beach property next to Sun and Sons, but I'm looking to get into Diani market. I love Diani since I came in 2015. I love the place. It's probably the most beautiful place in the whole of Africa. What I'd like to thank you. What I'd like to ask is, in terms of the future, is it going to get more saturated? Because I've seen a lot of people getting to invest in Diani. I'm also seeing, you talk about that told stories. I've been to Diani a couple of times, and I keep seeing sometimes a restaurant is there today, tomorrow it's out there. For example, there's one called Tiki Bar, which is my favorite. Very nice cook. So I'd like to, in terms of, if I was to invest in Diani and I was to possibly also do another business, how is it this environment? How is it dealing with the government? Is it easy for me to integrate? Because I believe the government might be different from the government in Nairobi. And other than that, thank you, Zach, for your positive review. I think I learned something from Zach. You said when the government starts adding more tax, it means that there's something good happening. So it's something that I've also learned from this conversation. So thank you, Zach, for that.
Well, thank you very much. Just to note that our offices where we are right now is just next to the former Tiki Bar. And as we're speaking, there's already La Terrace, which has come up, and it's a very prime establishment that is being frequented by reserved bookings. So I would like to say that one good pointer is that with the advent of a structure in terms of legalities that are binding, we're looking at a market that will be very much endeared to by would-be investors. So I would like to say that Diani is actually opening up, and in terms of saturation, I think there will be a churning out of the chaff between the chaff and the wheat, because only the serious, determined, and focused investors would want to come in because of the structure that is being spearheaded by the government regulations in terms, like for example, in terms of taxation, in terms of how to carry out business. There are regulations that are being put that people must adhere to, be they local or international investors. So yeah, we are looking at a possibility of saturation, but it will be the great kind of saturation when it comes to when you talk about competition and healthy competition at that.
Perhaps to add on that, in a business, there's some of the things that you should identify the gap. What is the gap in that particular business that you're going to venture? Everyone is doing the Airbnb business here. Everyone is doing the investment in terms of putting up structures perhaps for long-term or for sale. That is business that is right now booming in Diani, and meaning that, yes, the markets are going to be saturated, but what is your differentiation factor? what is your complementary? Like if I'm offering an Airbnb business, what can complement that? So the future in Diani belongs to the people who are willing and are able to think outside and beyond the box. So if you're ready to do that, because everyone is doing the same thing that you're doing, and everyone is seeking in the same pool. So what are you willing to do that is outside the box and out of the normal? That is where the future of the people who are investing in Diani belong. We've talked about the system, the structures, the strategies. So what are your future strategies on this? If you're going to do the normal, then expect a normal return. If you're going to do the extraordinary and outside the box kind of thing, then expect a bigger return on this one, because everyone is copying what you're doing. So if they copy this, make sure you're here so that you move ahead as far as investment is they're concerned. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you can also see Andrew again.
Hi, my question was similar to the previous person's question involving saturation. I'm probably the only Jamaican in the group here. So I was asking about something in relation to that in terms of saturation and what the success, are there any success stories about people, i.e. from the Caribbean, coming to Diani and investing and being successful as such. I've been doing some investigation in terms of trying to live there, because my aim is to actually come there and live, so privately and business. So I was just interested in knowing what the success, or is there a success rate in that? Is there any examples of people doing that?
So you talk about success, I think it's a bit broad. Would you mind expounding in what direction so that we can be able to give the right information?
Well, for example, to acquire residency, there's several routes. I'm not fully versed in it, and I'm still looking into it. One of them is you have to have a certain amount, and the amount is a big amount, which is quite off-putting. But just general success. Somebody comes there and buy a piece of land, and they settle, and they get a business, and it works. Am I wasting my time in general?
Well, I get you. The success stories are there, and they are real. So there are different success stories, and one of them is where we are currently, our niche. We deal with the holiday homes, that is the both short-term and long-term rental space. So in the holiday homes, the long and short-term rentals in Diani post higher rental yields than typical residential rentals anywhere in the country. So the average gross yields is around 10 to 15% annually, and which looks like a good figure, if I should say, for a well-managed holiday property. So some investors targeting vacation rentals report a yield of, let's say, around 9% or more after costs, and with a strong peak season occupancy driving income. Yeah, you remember in our opening, we say that there is a very big sense of seasonality in the Diani market, and so with that, we say that during the peak season, business normally picks up very fast, and it can really help in patching up the other times that have been dry. Again, we look at the land values and beachfront properties that have historically shown double-digit capital appreciation, often between 15 and 25% in well-located areas due to demand from both local and international buyers. So these returns are above typical residential rental values, and we also look at the indicators of positive performance. So what data suggests is that occupancy and demand with this, we can see that near the beach, we can have high seasonal occupancy, often between or above 80% in peak times, which is a good pointer. And then when we talk about capital growth potential, the property and land value appreciation in Diani have been driven by improved accessibility and infrastructure, like the Dongokundu, the improvement of the Diani airport, an international airport also close to the train terminal at Miritini. So when we look at that, we see that really we are growing. And also when we talk about the tourism sector growth, the government data shows that rising tourist arrivals in Kenya and significant contribution from coastal regions like Diani indicate strong underlying demand for tourism-related businesses. So anybody looking to venture into Diani in a touristic demand pool is bound to eventually hit it. So we are looking at a success rate that is more on the success front than maybe the possibility of the failure rate. So we are looking at a good figure of over 60-70% success rate.
Just to add on a bit on what Andrew is saying, I've already talked about the depreciation and the quality of the kind of investment that you're going to put. What makes your property to be different? That is one of the things that will determine the kind of success that you're going to get. The second thing is a good market. There is what we call a market segmentation. If you're going to put up an investment in Diani, who are your market? Who are you targeting this to? It's very important for you to outline these things before you put up an investment. For instance, if I'm going to put an investment in the third or fourth row, who are my target market? One, what we look at or we recommend to most of our clients is what is the surrounding? What surrounds you? Are there NGOs around? Perhaps a charity? organizations around. So these kind of things, they will make you know what kind of investment that you're going to venture into and what kind of market you're going to direct your investments to. Then the other most important thing is about the cash flow during the off season. Where do you get this money from? So the money is gotten from you knowing your market. So if you know, like for instance, the way we tell most of our clients, the market in Europe is better during when there is winter and all that. Why? Because when you look at their schedule for getting their off days, it's much longer than, let's say, compared to the US. This one I'm basing on the statistics that we've been receiving and from the first-hand experience. People from the US, they get like they only come for 1 week, or at most, if it goes to the most, is 2 weeks, but mostly 1 week they go back. But people from Europe, we've experienced that they come from 3 weeks, 1 month, yeah, and perhaps they extend longer depending on their activities. So when you're doing your market segmentation, these are some of the things. So the best thing is that during peak season, perhaps you can target this particular market. During the low season, just know how the market behaves. It needs a lot of study. It's not a one-time thing. It needs a lot of study in that. And then the local regulations, those ones, they can really hit hard on your success story. Because these regulations, they keep on changing time and again. Whatever we had, now we've been running a business for the last 7 years. Whatever we had before, as compared to what is being seen right now, it's different. The regulations keep on changing. Now we are going digital, which is good. So those are some of the things that can determine your success points when you're considering to invest in Diani. So I can say that those are some of the success stories are within you, and it is up to you to know what you'll be doing. So we have only 5 minutes left so that you can close up the webinar. Perhaps we take 1 or 2 questions, and we can call it a day. I can see Zach has raised. Yeah.
Zach, I think we answer one question from somebody from the chat, and that is Ndungu. I think we should also take them because they have asked, and we also need to respond to them. So Ndungu asked if the title search is consolidated for this country on Al-Disasa. So, and typically, how long would a search take online? So, any tips on this? I would say, with a short answer, that it's not fully. While Nairobi and a few other counties are 100% digitized on Al-Disasa, while a county in Diani still lags behind a bit and still operates primarily through the eCitizen portal and the physical quality lands registry. So, the reality is that you cannot rely solely on Al-Disasa for Diani just yet. You must use the land Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning section in eCitizen. The consolidation trap. Some properties may appear on Al-Disasa if they've been recently converted under the Section on Properties Act, but the master record for most Diani land is still at the Kwale registry. So the time it takes for an online search, the official time is 24 to 72 hours. Though the actual time on eCitizen, the results are usually available for download within 24 hours once payment is made. For Al-Disasa, we note that if the property is on Al-Disasa, the search is nearly instant, but it requires the property owner's digital consent to release the results. If the owner doesn't log in to accept your request, the search will hang indefinitely. So just to give expert tips for 2026 searches, one is that the dual search strategy for Diani will always do an eCitizen search and have your lawyer conduct a physical green card search at the Kwale registry. The green card is the handwritten source of truth, and it shows all the transactions that have been conducted on a piece of land since it was registered and commissioned under the Kenyan land laws. So you're able to find the original information from the green card. Then the exact formatting on eCitizen, the title number must be entered exactly. If your title says, let's say Kwale Galu Kinondo, do not use spaces or dashes unless they are in the original title. Then lastly, for the sake of time, we will say that you check for encumbrances. When you get the results, don't just look at the name, look for the encumbrances section. In 2026, many owners have taken hidden business loans during the economic shifts. The search must show that land is clean, no active charges for loans. This will be able to at least help you have a clear picture. So for the sake of time, I think we will just have to find a way to address the questions, maybe in our next webinar or a podcast. And I think Viata will be able to lead us on that. So please, Viata.
I think we should come to the end of the webinar session. Thank you very much for attending, for taking time to come and be with us to discuss this very, I can say, itching and very important session on if Diani is a paradise of investment. At least now we've moved you from where you are to another step, and even the questions they are building us, it is a learning session. We are learning from you and you're learning from us. So I've seen people asking what we do basically at Wirbelwind Marketing Limited. We usually provide marketing services. If you have a holiday home, we provide marketing services for you at the comfort of your seat. We just direct the money to your account, so you don't have to delve in the issues or the headaches of marketing your home. Secondly, we can do management as part of our product. We manage we can do like provide the housekeepers, the gardeners, and all that at the comfort of your seat. You don't have to struggle with that. I know this has been a pertinent issue. And then the final thing that we do is consultancy. Like if you want to invest in Diani, if you want to grow your business, and right now we are starting a class, as Bakari had mentioned previously. It's about skills development for the housekeepers. So if you have your housekeepers out there, you can send them every Saturday from around 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. That will be happening here at our office, and they will have something good to take home. So we'll do the circulation of that even for the webinar. I can see that most of the people are saying that we share this webinar session with them. We're going to do that, but because of time, we cannot proceed any further. I can see others are asking if we can have another session of the same. We are going to create that just for you. If you need to do any consultation, as Andrew has said, we are located just next to the Tiki Bar, the new the Tiki Bar. It was Tiki Bar before, I'm so used to Tiki Bar, but it is at Terrace, and it is at the Trade building. Only the blue signboard that is downstairs, Wirbelwind Marketing Limited. So you can visit us, and we'll be able to interact more. Our contacts are there on the screen. Please call us anytime that you need us to advise you in various things that are happening or revolving around investment. Thank you very much for your time, and we wish you a lovely morning from wherever you are, a lovely evening from wherever you are, and a lovely afternoon from wherever you are. Asanteni sana.